Okay, I'm here with independent candidate Donald Burns. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Yourself?
Okay, I'm just going to ask him you 3 quick questions. A lot of people are wondering why you aren't running as a Republican candidate as you have in the past. What made you run as an independent this year?
It was sort of, not directly, but sort of indirectly made known to me that I really didn't have the party support. I asked too many questions, I don't go along with everything, and I decided that they didn't really ask me to run. They did send a general email that asked everybody for a resume that was interested in running. I thought after 21 years that they might have asked me. They didn't ask me beforehand. When I didn't submit a resume, they didn't ask if nobody contacted me and said, hey, we didn't hear from you. We don't know if you're interested in running or not. So it just confirmed my thought that I really didn't have the party support. So I thought about it, and then I decided to run as an independent.
Okay, do you think that maybe, well, obviously because most people just vote like the line or the ticket.
Party line.
But do you think that maybe you could try and avoid that and win because of your name recognition in town? Like how people know you from the council?
Well, if I'm going to win, it's only going to be by name recognition. Because number one, I'm not running a traditional campaign. I have not asked anybody for money, and I'm not going to ask anybody for money. And I'm not Michael Bloomberg, I've said this before, where I can do my own financing. Just to send out a simple letter is probably close to $3,000 or more when you consider the postage, getting the mailing list, and getting the letter reproduced and everything else. So I'm not asking anybody for money. I'm going to depend on name recognition. I've been on the council for 21 years. Although there are new people in town, hopefully enough people watch that know me and support me. And I'm going to depend a lot on word of mouth. Just not name recognition, but people that do support me and know that I try to always represent the taxpayers, whether it be commercial or residents. I try to represent the residents of Oakland. And by doing so, I'm hoping that they see what I've done over the years. And I've been controversial at times, but again, I've always done what I thought was best for the community. So if I don't get elected by word of mouth and name recognition, I'm not going to be reelected. You know, so I'm very realistic about that. But I'm hoping, and I've told everybody, if you're going to come out and vote for me on November the 2nd, also talk to your neighbors and friends, because that's the only way I'm going to get people to come out and support me. So that's what my intention is and what my hope is.
Okay, well, one last question for Mr. Burns. And if you've been following our polling, you will find out that one of the questions was about rezoning the property, which is behind the high school, and is also near McCoy Road, to residential. And most people did not, from the poll, did not really know too much about it. But for the people that did know, a lot of people did say no, they did not want residential. What is your view on that?
I've already indicated that I would vote no to rezone that property. Residential property is not the best type of property for income. You know, you do get taxes and everything else, but with the cost of schools in Oakland and everything else, you almost have to have three or four children, or less than 3 or 4 children. You have to have one child or no children, and you still have to have a pretty expensive home to make it cost effective, if you want to call it that. Oakland also is part of the Highlands area. You know, the area back behind ShopRite and going up Long Hill, that whole area there. Well, this piece of property, although it's not directly in the Highlands, it is part of the Highlands General Region.
He's filming something, Mildred.
Thank you.
Mildred, he's filming.
Oh, he's filming?
Yeah.
Oh,
That, you know, the property like that, we want to protect it, but the Oakland residents cannot afford to pay for these properties. We're a small community. When I first got on the council over the years, we've bought a number of major properties, or not we have, but we've had a number of major properties bought and become part of open spaces. The 3 camps, Camp Todd, Camp Tamarack, and Camp Glen Gray. The borough really spent very little on that. The last 2 purchases that we made, the borough was paying a substantial portion of that. We're a small community, and that just adds to our debt and to our taxes, and we can't afford to do it. We had never used really our open space trust fund for anything major to purchase property. Now our trust fund is probably going to be dedicated to paying off the debt for these properties over the next several years. I would rather see our open space trust fund used to develop some of the properties. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Raymond property. It's sort of opposite the police station. We've talked about making that a passive park. That's what we should be spending it on. And one of the things I've very much objected to was one of the purchases that we made was what was called New Jersey Capital. That property, we were forced to buy it by the courts because the borough would not grant one variance out of the many that they were requesting that would have provided ingress and egress to the property. And as a result of that, the planning board attorney had even advised that if they don't grant at least that one variance, that the developer could go to the courts and get a ruling of inverse condemnation, which is exactly what happened. And as a result of that, the mayor and council had no choice but to vote for that. I'm not going to go to jail in contempt of court because we were ordered by the court to purchase that property. So when it came up for a vote, I voted for it. I also did vote for the property across from Shopwell, the Heritage Hill property, because it was a very good buy and it's in the floodplain, and we certainly didn't want that developed. But again, on both of these properties, if we had not done what we did, especially with the New Jersey Capital, that's actually when the market fell out. And they probably would not have developed that. We would have had more time to get possibly federal, county, state grants to purchase that as we have in the past. But instead, the Oakland taxpayers are paying it. And we're just too small a community to be paying for large pieces of property. If we have to buy that property that's at the top of Long Hill, if we don't get all grants for it, that's going to be a substantial burden on the people of Oakland. And I'm in favor of having that property because it is in the watershed area. So we do want to protect that. But Oakland can't do that. Also, another thing about buying these properties is, first of all, you have the purchase price of them. And if we pay for those properties, that's one thing. But then we also lose it as a tax rateable. So in all these cases, there are other communities that at least had talked about getting the state to provide them with some ongoing income because of the taxes that they lost. I don't know if anybody was successful in that, but we never pursued that. But even if we lost the tax rateable, we cannot afford to pay for these properties.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Burns, for
My
joining
pleasure.
us.
Thank
and
you.
You can vote for Mr. Burns this November 2nd.